we talk so much about, risk and return, and there's been a lot of talk recently about how, we need risk, return, and impact. And the reality is currently companies are only rewarded for that return aspect. So if this is like a risk return, if these are your risk adjusted returns, companies are really only rewarded, for the positive value that they're created to equity holders. It doesn't really matter if there's an additional positive value being created in society, or negative value value being extracted from society. It's not really part of the equation in how companies are rewarded. And as such, we're not seeing progress against many of the social issues that we are expecting businesses to be leaders on, whether or not it's climate change, social justice, improving equality, action against the SDGs. That action isn't occurring because we're not incentivizing it. Companies aren't rewarded for making those investments and contributing to society. And so the objective of the impact weighted accounts initiative and what impact weighted accounts are seeking to do is to really change the value proposition by bringing impact to be the third factor along with risk and return. Really what we want to do is shift this equation so that our perfect, like the objective of the organization, of a corporate organization, is to create positive value for equity holders. That's fine, but also create value to non-equity holders, society as well. And the reality is really trying to dissuade positive value being created to equity holders, but at the expense of society. It's a new value proposition. But how do we do that? I mean, in reality, what we need to do is have objective, quantifiable measures of income. And that's what impact weighted accounts seeks to do. Well, what does this look like? What is the impact weighted accounts actually? What do they actually look like? So the impact weighted accounts initiative is actually broken down three dimensions, impact into three dimensions, non-exclusive buckets, I will say. The first is around environmental impact. What's done there is really looking at climate change costs and the impact of these corporate operations on human and ecological well-being. The second bucket is around employment impact, really saying what's the impact on employees and the broader community through the process of hiring and the other benefits that come through employment practices. And third is around product. And that's really looking at the downstream impact, looking at the impacts that occur on the customer and also society from use of a specific product. And these can actually also look at transitionary impacts. For example, the ability for renewable energy to transition to a low carbon economy development as well. So, and that actually kind of gets to the last thing I want to talk about is current applications. I talked about decision making. The objective here is really to create better decisions. And what we need to do that, we need to actually understand the impact trade-offs that are happening. An example of that, I think there's someone from Fresno County on the call here. A partner of the Impact Weighted Accounts Initiative, Fresno County, California, is actually, hey Chris, they're actually using this impact methodology to assess the businesses that want to come into the community and understand what's the impact that you're going to be creating for society in addition to the financial value you're creating, and actually using that in their decision-making process to bring in business. On the report, this is a reporting tool. A lot of companies struggle to effectively communicate their impacts to stakeholders, whether or not it's equity or non-equity holders. This is a tool to facilitate that process. I mentioned Eisai, the Japanese pharmaceutical company that we're working with. They are actually going to be using this methodology to report to their investors, actually show the value that's being created. through these impact initiatives, and how that actually relates back to the business from a strategic planning perspective. Another partner that has worked with the Impact Weighted Accounts Initiative, Acciona, a Spanish infrastructure and renewable energy company, has actually used this to identify opportunities for future growth and to drive future impact. So it's really, truly just a value creation model, an internal management tool, if you will. And actually on the management and monitoring perspective for external, for investors and kind of external overseers, if you will, of corporate operations, we've been working with BlackRock, and they've actually used the employment impact framework as a tool to guide their stakeholder, their investor advocacy practices, to guide their portfolio companies to improve their employment practices, to really say, this is the analytical, this is what I want from you, this is the analytical process, and this is how I'm going to assess you. Because that's a key aspect in how we think about creating incentives in that management and monitoring phase for investors. So I will stop there, and we can open up some questions. But there's one thing I do want to add, and I always really think this is a fascinating quote for this kind of thinking. John Maynard Keynes, is a quote by him that it's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. And by not measuring impact, I can tell you we're precisely wrong, because everyone has impact.